Welcome to episode 8 of Lizzie's Bedtime Stories. My storyteller today is Laurie Salzler. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So, tell me a little bit about what we're going to be reading today. Positive Lightning, the first chapter. You know, what brought your interest?
Well, actually, my partner Linda and I had raised and trained leader dog puppies when we raised 11 of them, actually, and we had done that for a number of years. And she said to me one day as we were driving down the road, she looked at me and she said, you should write a story about a blind woman and, her getting a seeing eye dog. So, and that's all she had to say, and that's where I just kind of took it from there. So, and that's how Positive Lightning was born.
It's great. Where did you get your love of dogs?
I grew up with dogs. I had dogs from the time that I was born. My mother had a dog. He was a shepherd crossed with something, and his name was Moose. And for some unknown reason, when I was very, very small, he became so attached to me that he would not even eat his dinner unless I came out and said, "Okay, Moose, it's okay, you can eat." And I think that kind of pissed her off a little bit, but it was the only way that she could get the dog to eat. So I've had dogs. I've had animals all my life. We had horses and cats and dogs and multitude of rabbits and stuff like that. So I am quite familiar with all of their crazy habits. So, and it's like me too. I mean, I just kept on, right through college, I had a dog. And that's actually how I met Linda. I was looking for a place to bring my dog to college, but I couldn't keep her in the dorm, obviously. So I was looking for an apartment. And so that's how I met Linda, through a mutual friend. And we were roommates for several months before we actually got together. Our dogs hated each other when we first moved together, and shortly thereafter they became inseparable, kind of like Linda and I.
Wow, that's a great story. I could see like a coming of age kind of book coming out of that concept altogether. That's amazing. So
yeah, it's fun.
How many years have you two been together?
It'll be 32 this coming November.
32 years?
Yep, 32 years.
Wow, that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. We've actually been together longer than half our lives. So, most of our adult lives we spent together.
Yeah, my parents, they kicked it up a notch from that. My mother was 13 and my father was 14 when they met one summer after my mom finished 8th grade. And they've been together ever since. So they've been together since 1963. He asked her to marry him 2 separate times, but she said no because she was too young. I think the first time when she was 16. But I mean, think about it. In the late 60s, early 70s, it wasn't that uncommon to marry somebody, your high school sweetheart. But they both went to college. Yeah, they both went to college before that, and they're still together.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah. It's a nice little happy story. So you're going to read the first chapter of Positive Lightning. Would you mind giving us the blurb for this story that's coming out in 2014?
Yes, absolutely. This is the blurb for Positive Lightning. Kate Winter teaches dog owners how to train their canine companions. During her spare time, accompanied by her lab Dakota, she explores the woods and beaches on foot or on horseback. She's worried that something's happening in her relationship, but she can't get her girlfriend to talk to her about it. Faith Hutchins recently lost her sight after a terrible outdoor accident. She's dealt with anger, depression, and her blindness primarily on her own. A seeing eye dog would help alleviate her reliance on anyone else, but the guide dog school has been unsuccessful in providing her with one. On a mission to find someone who will train a dog specifically for her, she ultimately zeroes in on Kate. They say lightning never strikes the same place twice, but positive lightning is notoriously unpredictable and can ignite a fire when or where least expected, no matter who's in its path.
Dun, dun, dun. Okay, well, that's definitely, you got me. So why don't you start the reading for our lovely listeners?
Okay. Chapter 1. Damn it all, Kate Winter mumbled into her pillow as she tried in vain to ignore the obnoxious rain. She'd been smack in the middle of a good dream when the phone started playing Who Let the Dogs Out. A sharp poke in the ribs from Trish's elbow ceased all the erotic images floating behind her eyelids. The phone rang 3 more times before she was able to untangle herself from the sheets, yank her legs out from under Dakota, her yellow lab, and squirm to the edge of the bed to find the damn thing. She was probably very lucky she couldn't understand the muffled words from beneath Trish's pillow. Between the ear-piercing ring and Trish's bitching, she debated which was going to make the blood run from her ears first. Hello, she croaked into the receiver, using her thumb and index finger to rub sleep out of her eyes. Barely conscious, but quite aware of the tingling in her legs as blood found its way to the region below her knees, she pounded her feet on the mattress to hurry it up. For her efforts, she received a hard nudge to her calf from her lover's heel. Gods, I love your morning voice, the voice on the other end said. What the hell time is it, Sands? Kate ran her tongue around her teeth and gums in search of some saliva. It was still dark out. Why the hell would Sandy Schmidt be calling her now? Ooh, you sound grumpy. Did Trish kick you when the phone rang? No, but I think she ruptured my appendix, she said through a yawn, ignoring the additional muscle complaining, and broke my leg. She just doesn't appreciate you. How long are you going to wait before you give her the old heave-ho? Sandy's voice took on a note of conspiracy. Sandy, Kate said, searching for the clock. She pulled a pair of boxers off it, causing it to fall off the nightstand and start blinking 12 o'clock. Damn it! Kate plopped her head down and groaned. Why the hell did you call me at dark 30? Okay, honey, Trish must have pulled the blinds closed again to keep me from peeking in, no doubt. It's 8 o'clock. Kate heard a giggle. I have a job for you. I already have a job. I work for you, remember? You have a place called the Doghouse? She rolled onto her side and reached for the water bottle. Her tongue insisted on pasting itself to the roof of her mouth. Duh, I know, but I got a call last night from the seeing eye dog place. There's this woman who wants somebody who knows what to train a guide dog for. I thought of you right away, but decided not to interrupt any hot and heavy last night. Kate ignored the comment and finished chugging the water before answering. I wouldn't know where to begin. Letting the empty drop to the floor, she flipped onto her back. She rolled her eyes when a heavy sigh emitted from the other side of the bed. You know how to teach the basics. I'll explain the rest when you get here. See you in a while. She lay with her eyes closed for a minute, only opening them a slit when Dakota nudged her hand with his nose. I know, I'm coming. Think you could be a little quieter? I'm trying, emphasis on the trying, to get some sleep, Trish Wilbert snarked at her. Kate sucked in a bunch of air and let it sit in her lungs for a bit, hoping she could exhale all the nasty retorts that were reeling around in her head. She closed her eyes and slowly breathed it out. It was definitely time to get up. She knew if she didn't ignore Trish's comment, they'd end up in another fuck you match. Those seemed to be getting more and more frequent these days, and she wondered whether their attitude toward each other had changed. She rolled off the bed and stretched into her back and sternum crack. Before going into the bathroom, she turned on her heel to let Dakota out into the fenced-in yard. When done, she poked her head out of the bathroom and looked towards the bed, quite relieved to see that Trish seemed to be sleeping again. As she pulled on jeans and a blue polo shirt, she felt a wave of stealth come over her, quite like back in her college days when she waited until she bedded and fallen asleep and then sneaked out. Flicking her hand down her front to brush off some dog hair, Kate's eyes rested briefly on the dog trainer's logo and her name in cursive below it. It got her wondering what Sandy was trying to get her roped into now. On the way to the kitchen, she opened the door for the yellow beast that bounded in and dropped to a sit in front of her. Ropes of slimy drool hung from his lips in anticipation of his breakfast. Can't you think about something other than eating while you're out there peeing, she said. and bent down to wipe his mush with a towel that she kept next to the door for that very purpose. He looked at her with a deep, adoring eyes and wagged his tail so hard the entire back half of him wiggled. It got to her every time. She kissed the top of his head, then let go of his face and watched him trot to his bowl. He stole a quick glance back, wagged some more, and then dug in. This was his normal morning routine. For some reason, every time he was about to eat, he'd look at her as if asking permission. Kate admired Dakota's shiny yellow coat, thinking he was a far cry from the depressed bag of bones she found wandering the streets a year ago. She'd happened upon them quite suddenly, having stopped for coffee after leaving the dog show just outside of Rochester, New York. On her way to the truck, there stood, threadbare and exotically perfumed. He didn't appear to have any pressing appointments and was seemingly open to suggestions. She wasn't sure what made her open the truck's door and offer him a ride, but she was convinced that in the span of a minute, he'd already assessed their compatibility. She broke her musings, turned the coffee maker on, and waited while it gurgled and spewed steam like it was preparing to make the best cuppa known to womankind. 5 excruciatingly long minutes later, her caffeinated inspiration dribbled into the waiting mug. By then, Dakota had finished licking the shine off his bowl and had retired to his bed to clean his nether parts. Sure, just rub it in, why don't you? She leaned her weight against the counter and took a tentative sip from her mug to avoid burning her lips. She didn't even want to think about Sandy's colorful commentary should she show up with a red blistered mouth. Over black coffee, she debated the relative fuel ratios of Captain Crunch versus Pop-Tarts. Maybe she'd have both. The sound of the toilet flushing from the bedroom caused her to start and decide quickly. She reached into the cupboard behind a big box of lasagna noodles and pulled out a package of frosted strawberry tarts. She had all intentions of snatching Keys, Sel, and Dakota and heading out before Trish made an appearance, but her voice stopped Kate in her tracks. Where are you headed so fast? Trish stood in the doorway of the bedroom and looked at her accusingly. Her dirty blonde hair stuck out from her scalp like she just pulled her finger out of an electrical socket. She narrowed her gray eyes and shoved her hands in the pockets of her purple nightgown with the L word women pasted over her boobs. Kate sort of remembered when she thought that was cute. To work, where do you think? She subtly slipped the Pop-Tarts into her back pocket, trying to appear nonchalant. Being the health nut she was, if Trish had found her stash, she would have thrown them out. So Sandy calls and you have to run out the door 2 hours before your first class? Kate shrugged and said she wants to talk to me about training a dog for a blind woman. Trish snorted. Right, like you know anything about that. Well, you don't know that I don't, she snapped. Annoyed, she spun around, snatched the keys from the hook, and slapped her thigh for Dakota. He got up and quickly trotted to her side. It seemed he wanted out of there as much as she did. I gotta go, she said, turning from the door. See you tonight. She didn't wait for a reply to see if Trish was working a late shift at the hospital. Dakota stuck to her leg like glue until the door slammed behind him, and then he bolted the last 20 feet to the truck. She opened the door of her old Ford truck and waited for him to put his front feet up on the seat. She hoisted his 85 pounds and followed him in. He settled himself onto the passenger seat and looked over at her expectantly, without realizing that she grabbed the steering wheel so tightly her hands cramped around it. She grimaced as she eased him off and sighed. Kate reached over and stroked Dakota's neck, feeling the tension leave her neck and shoulders. Let's get out of here, what do you say? Dakota yipped and she turned the key. She backed down the long maple tree-lined driveway with a new plan. Admittedly, 2 hours was somewhat early to get to work. She was sure Sandy could give her the scoop in an hour or less, so she turned left onto the road instead of her usual right. 10 minutes later, she aimed the truck down a rutted dirt road and parked it next to the river. She turned off the engine and marveled that even with the windows up, she could hear the roar of the water as it charged over and around the boulders. Dakota whined and wiggled, antsy to get out, and undoubtedly explored scents that were new since they'd been there last. Kate smiled at him as she rounded the front of the truck to the passenger side. When she opened his door, he bounded out and trotted through the woods, already making pig-like snuffle noises. The updraft river's self-propelled wind brought the smell of wet ground, pine, and a little fishiness thrown in. The sound of the moving water filled her ears, nearly erasing all consciousness of her surroundings. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Already the knot that had formed in her chest from dealing with Trish was loosening. She loved Trish, at least she thought she did. It occurred to her that she might love her but not be in love with her. She didn't want to analyze that right now. She just wanted to relax and enjoy some time to herself before she had to deal with the dog owners in her class. She sat down on a grassy spot near the bank, pulled out the now severely squished Pop-Tarts, and tore open the wrapper. Amidst all the crumbs, there were still a few bigger pieces, which she picked out with her fingers. She licked the packaging to make sure she captured all the nutrition she could, because after all, lunch was still several hours away. A pair of wood ducks exploded from the trees downstream and flew past her. Their wings made a fast whistling sound as they went by. Something told her Dakota had something to do with their flesh. Sure enough, he sauntered in her direction, wagging his tail, looking quite pleased with himself until his attention was diverted past her. He stiffened and the hackles stood up on his back. He closed the distance to Kate and sat down next to her, and a growl rattled deep in his throat. Kate followed the dog's gaze and caught movement through the woods. She silently watched as the form took the shape of a horse and rider on the trail next to the river and soon recognized it as her friend Alex Hughes. She stood up and spoke as she walked so she wouldn't alarm the horse. "Hey, Alex." The rider tugged lightly on the reins and looked into the woods. The Red Sox baseball cap Alex wore hid her brown eyes, but not her brilliant smile. She let up on the reins, allowing the horse to lower his head, relax, and chew the bit in his mouth. A slight mist of steam rose off his gray, sweaty hide. "Kate, is that you?" Dakota's grumbling stopped abruptly when he recognized Alex's voice. "Stay here, Dakota." She signaled with her palm to sit and stay. "Yep, it's me." Kate walked out of the trees and onto the path. "I haven't seen you down here in the morning for a while. What's up?" "Just needed to get some fresh air before I started work." "From the general population again?" Kate looked down at her feet and shook her head. "Was it that obvious?" "Something like that." "Or more specifically, Trish?" Alex shifted her seat in the saddle. The creaking of the leather made Kate yearn to be on a horse as well. "I wish I knew I should never have introduced you to Sandy. You're too much in cahoots and nothing gets past you. How am I supposed to get away with anything?" Alex chuckled and said, "Let's put it this way. Neither can Trish. We have to watch out for our favorite baby Dyke, you know." Her comment forced a laugh out of Kate, and it felt good. Baby Dyke, right. "You obviously don't remember celebrating my 40th birthday at the bar last month." She tapped her lips with her finger and said, "Maybe you wouldn't. I seem to recall you locking lips with some vet student from Cornell." She was fun for the night, but I digress. Baby Dyke doesn't necessarily mean age, silly. It's too bad Trish is your first real relationship. You could have come out of that particular closet with somebody who deserved you. Kate had heard this before from Sandy, and it seemed like a never-ending diatribe during the 3 years she and Trish had been together. If she remembered correctly, it started about a year into their relationship. Yeah, you only think the worst of Trish because you hear me complain about her sometimes. I better let you go before that colt stiffens up." She stepped back in hopes of encouraging Alex to make her departure. "You're probably right. Want to go riding this Saturday? You said your dog classes don't start until late afternoon." "Why do I think this is a setup of sorts?" Alex sighed and said innocently, "Always think the worst. I just thought you'd like to get Spinner out for some exercise." Kate smiled, knowing Alex really did have her best interest at heart most times. "We'll see. Think about it. I'll talk to you later." Alex gathered the reins and collected the horse. Kate stood looking after her for a moment before calling Dakota to her side and walking to the truck. Faith Hutchins poured hot water into her mug, stopping when she felt heat at the tip of her finger. The rich aroma of the black tea rose to her nose and she took a deep breath. It was early morning. She didn't need the voice of the clock to tell her that. The sun felt warm on her shoulder and arm. Her window was open, and a gentle breeze brought the chorus of birdsong with it that it was in full swing. She'd never been much into birding until one of the nurses gave her that dumb clock for Christmas. It was the one that played a different birdsong on every hour. She knew Joyce had meant it as a gag gift, and even she was surprised when she found herself listening for it. A week later, she ordered a bird song identification CD. Taking a sip of her strong brew, she wondered how long it would be until she received word from the Seeing Eye Dog School. She smiled, recalling the conversation she'd had with the administrator, Harold Cooper. He'd been none too pleased about her request or her threat to remove his organization as beneficiary to her will. That act would have cost him close to $1 million. A long, drawn-out yowl broke the face's stream of thought as Ahab, her three-legged Siamese cat, padded into the room. She'd had him since kittenhood. He used to wander in the woods behind her house until some idiot took a shot at him as he ran. The .22 caliber bullet had broken his leg and traveled just beneath his skin before exiting through his armpit. He'd been missing for a couple days, and when she finally found him, gangrene had already set in, requiring the amputation. So I crawled out of bed. She reached down to accept the headbutt he gave her hand every morning. She scratched his head affectionately and got up to give him a scoop of victuals. His combustion engine sounding purr followed her as she shuffled to the counter and put his bowl on the floor in front of the stove. Don't forget to let me know when you're done eating this time. It took me forever to find your bowl after I kicked it across the kitchen yesterday. Faith stroked Ahab once as he rubbed his long body along her leg before she heard him crunching a piece of kibble with his teeth. She left his meal and returned to the table. The wind ruffled her dark curly hair as she opened her laptop and listened to the news. She needed something to distract her from the urge to pick up the phone and find out the status of her proposition. 5 minutes later, the phone rang. She jumped and grabbed it at the same time, nearly and her tea off the table. Help, she said with just a hint of urgency in her voice. Good morning, Miss Faith. Oh, hi, Sheila. She couldn't hide the disappointment in her voice. Geez, don't sound so happy that it's me, Sheila Parsons whined. I'm sorry, I was expecting another call. Faith took a deep breath and smiled. How are you today? She found her mug and took a sip of her now tepid tea. I've got some great news, Sheila said excitedly. I got in. I'm going to get a guide dog. Oh, sweetie, I'm so happy for you. I know you've been on the waiting list for over a year. When do you go in for training? Next month. I can't wait to get rid of this damn cane, pardon my language. I hope they can match me with a German Shepherd. I had one when I was a kid, and I just love them. Really? You had one when you were a kid? Didn't you just turn 13 last week? Besides, I would have thought you more of a poodle girl myself. Faith loved teasing her. She'd met Sheila during a special class on how to deal with progressive blindness while she was rehab. Paired as part of some of the exercises, they'd become fast friends. Although the kid lived in Chicago with her parents, the distance was never an issue as they spoke or emailed each other at least once a week. Sheila giggled as she took Faith's leg pulling in stride. Actually, I turned 16. Are you going senile on me? Anyway, poodles are reserved for people who have allergies. And to answer your question, no, I'm not losing my mind yet. 40 is hardly the age, unless, of course, you have a teenager, which I don't. Faith heard a muffled voice and assumed Sheila had covered the mouthpiece with her hand. Faith, I have to go. Mom wants to take me out shopping for dog stuff. I think she's as excited as I am. Okay, kiddo. Congratulations again, and I'll talk to you soon. Faith closed her cell phone and set it on the table. She took a deep breath and let it out as a sigh. Happiness over Sheila's entrance into the Seeing Eye Dog program battled with the frustration that she was still without a guide dog herself. What is taking them so long to call me? Restless and impatient, she decided she needed to do something other than sit around and wait for the damn phone to ring again. She shoved her cell into her pocket, picked up her cold tea, and drank. Anxious to get moving, she completely forgot about the empty bowl, and for the second time in as many days, sent it barreling across the kitchen with her foot. Son of a... I need to go for a walk. She strode confidently to the front door closet, put her sneakers on, grabbed her aluminum hoover cane, and walked out the door. That's the end of chapter 1.
Wow. Those are like 2 characters that need some change in their lives.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yep.
So, this is the first chapter from a novel that's going to be coming out next year, and a nice little tease for it as well. Has it been fun to take any personal experiences when dealing with, when taking care of and training dogs and putting it into some of your writing?
Yes, it has. The writing Kate part, obviously she's the dog trainer, that was a very easy role for me to write. Writing Faith Hutchins was extremely hard because I had to sit back and think about what it was like to be blind. And as I researched that, and I also have a very good contact who is blind, and she helped me with a lot of this stuff. She basically helped me put myself into a blind person's head. So, as I was writing this story, I got thinking, people that walk down the street and they see somebody that's blind, their mental commentary to themselves is, oh, that person's blind, that's too bad. And then they go on with their lives. So they have actually no idea what it's like to lose their sight. Mm-hmm. And, the things that that a blind person has to deal with if they're not born blind. Mm-hmm. So was something I want. As I wrote the story, I wanted people to become more aware of, and actually be able to, as they're reading the book, be able to put themselves in Faith's position and kind of experience what it's like. One of my favorite authors is Nevada Barr, and she wrote Blind Descent, and it's an Anna Pigeon novel, and it's about spelunking and stuff. And she wrote, the way she described the black caves was just phenomenal to me. And with that in mind, that's how I kind of kept her descriptions of that in my head, and then also what it was like to be blind, the different emotions that she would go through and stuff, and wrote that. And this book actually took me a little bit longer to write than Right Out of Nowhere. It's actually a longer book, but I think it's probably my best work yet. So it's an interesting book. It really is.
It's important. It's important for authors, even though it's not a rule, to have characters out there that have flaws other than, they can't fall in love or trust people. There are other, people live their lives and experience challenges. Again, Radcliffe's series on Cape Cod and Providencetown has the main character who was severely injured and nearly lost her leg. And so often when you read lesbian fiction, the characters are in incredible shape and they're all gorgeous, and whether they're a drop-down gorgeous femme or, a to die for butch, it's nice to have characters out there who are not, glossy, flawless people.
Right. Yep.
And another book that was really great. Did you ever read Battle Scars by Megan O'Brien?
I have, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, that was an amazing book, because I'm thinking about animals, and that was an amazing book where one of the characters had returned from Iraq and had extreme post-traumatic stress disorder, and was assigned not a guide dog, but a dog to help her deal with her flashbacks and emotions. And she chose a gorgeous dog, a Great Dane, but for somebody who has social anxiety, it's not the best dog to choose for, running under the radar. But at the same time, this is the perfect dog for her, because he could sense when she was anxious or stressed out, and he'd just kind of lean his body against her, and, petting him helped ground her. So I can see how, the relationship between a person and their guide dog, or the dog that they have in their life, can be very helpful when adjusting to a change.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I know my dogs they give me therapy every single day. So, and I'm not blind and I'm not half crazy. And so, but they're just there. Really, they help me a lot. They center me, they focus me. I take them for a walk every single morning, and that's our time together, and it's great.
It's wonderful.
I have 6 of them, bud.
Oh, goodness. Just a couple of dogs. You have a pack. You have a very own pack.
Exactly.
So thank you for sharing the first chapter of Positive Lightning, and I appreciate you coming on the show to share your story.
Well, thank you very much for having me. I'm very, very flattered.
Thanks very much.